Spring is in full bloom in Zone 8, and it's time to start planting our summer vegetables. I have a raised bed at the local community garden, and I love it so much because everyone is so nice and helpful. I started my bed in the late winter and tried planting some collards. Unfortunately, they didn't produce very well and started flowering and seeding earlier than expected. Now that it's starting to get too warm for leafy greens, it's time to pull up the collards. But first, I'm harvesting any leaves that are big enough to be edible and tasty. Most of them are pretty small, but maybe it'll be good in a smoothie. The plants are really easy to pull up from the soil. My garden mentor said that there's no need to let the soil rest or turn it over since the collards were only in there for a couple of months, especially considering that I added a big heap of compost when planting the collards a few months ago, and it's still breaking down. So the soil is still good. I ended up removing all but one collard plant. This is the only one that's produced those gorgeous, big, tasty leaves. All of the other plants are going into the garden's compost. Before coming to the garden today, my only plan was to plant a few bean sprouts that I started at home. I'll be posting another video on how to start beans if you're interested. But I've been so lucky with gardening here, and I've had every single thing donated to me. So today, the lady who has the bed next to me had some extra squash, cucumber, and bell peppers that wouldn't fit in her bed. And she gave them to me, so that's what we're going to be planting this summer. I'm so excited because these are all veggies that I really wanted to plant anyway, so just saving me some money and a trip over to the gardening store. First to be planted are the yellow crooked neck squash. The transplants are going straight into the ground, and the squash grows low to the ground and should be ready to harvest in about 6 weeks. Now for the cucumbers. Apparently, cucumbers can be planted in hills to promote good drainage. And since these are vine plants, they could easily take over the bed if I don't train them to grow upwards. So I will very likely be adding some sort of trellis as they grow. So I planted one on a hill and one level to the ground. We'll see if there's any difference in growth and production. The cucumbers will be ready to harvest in about 7 or 8 weeks. I'm not quite sure what type of peppers these are, but I'm hoping that there's some type of bell pepper. These might grow a little taller and may need some type of support in a few weeks. So we'll keep an eye on that. And with the longest time to harvest, the peppers will be ready in about 12 weeks or 3 months. Before we move on to planting the beans, let's take a quick break to talk about my tomatoes. If you're following me on Instagram, then you'll know that I started some tomato seeds in late March. They've been sprouting on my balcony at home, but it just doesn't get enough heat and light. So I brought them to the garden in hopes of being able to put them in the greenhouse. And yay! I got the green light to do so. So now the seedlings will be able to grow faster and healthier with consistent warmth, moisture, and better sunlight. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at naturally_mermaid to get behind the scenes content that I don't share on YouTube. Lastly are the beans that need to be planted. These are Kentucky Wonder beans, which are basically just green beans. I sprouted these at home, then put them in these makeshift planters to grow a little bit more. But I learned today that beans don't like to have their roots disturbed and therefore don't do well as transplants. So rather than removing them from these paper cups, I'm going to plant them directly into the ground. We made some slits in the sides so that the roots can push through as the cup is breaking down. But guys, you know what? I'm gonna take my chances. I feel weird about planting them in the cup, so we'll try one with and one without. This is an experiment, so we'll just have to see how it goes. In addition to planting the bean sprouts, I've got a few more seedlings that I started and didn't put in soil at home. These are going to go directly into the ground, and the roots should be pointed downwards. This is the way that you're supposed to do the beans. Don't sprout them first in soil. Now it's time to water. Believe it or not, this is my first time watering my raised bed. Up until a couple of weeks ago, it was raining almost every day for probably like 6 weeks. That could also be the reason as to why my collards failed. But since I just planted all of these gorgeous vegetables, we need to water them. My garden mentor is talking me through the different spray options on the hose. He's also telling me myths about different watering rules, such as don't water at night and don't get the leaves wet. According to him, God waters the plants regardless of these rules, so don't worry about it too much. You just want to make sure that the soil is wet a few inches below the surface and you should be good. Now I've just got to keep the bed watered and weeded, and hopefully in a few weeks we'll start seeing some progress. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications so that you'll know when I post the next garden update. Thanks for tuning in. Ciao!